Kia ora koutou, we'll open the meeting. I think I've started recording now. Yes. Yep. Great. So we're going to have Chair Scott. Oh no, James. Oh, I know he is the Mihi Whakatau, but I've got the Karakia first. So sorry.
Apologies, Chair. Karakia, Whakaturia mai ki te uru kahikatia, Whakaturia mai ki te uru tamatua. Katorona patia katia, katorona kaupekatia. Hia rangi papa, hia eo rangi. He whakamaru maru, he whakaruru hau, E-T-E-W-A. Hui, wiro, tomai te Māori, tomi e, hui e, Ko tēnā te ruru, te kaukau mai nei, ki hai mā hiti, ki hai mā rakaraki, pokinui o te ruru, te reko. He po, hei au, kāwa tia, ti hai wā mauri ora. Mi ati ki a koe, he te te mana e pira, mo te karakia whakatūpera i tēnei rā, nō reira, tēnā koe. E me hoki ki a koe, Wiki, ko hui tuatahi mo tēnei komiti, kōrua ko Nick, ko tēnei te wā, mahi timata hou, mo te kaunihera, nō reira nei ana mihi mātou, ngā kaunihera me ngā kaimahi kia kōrua, mo tō mahi kei te hiki mai nei, nō reira kia kaha, kia mai, te manana nui, aha ko te aha, me te hiki me te heke, kei ko rā kōrua, i rā tūru wera, nō reira tēnā kōrua, tēnā kōrua, tēnā kōrua. Koutou mā, kua tai mai, i tēnei rā, mo tēnei hui tuatahi, mo tēnei komiti, i whai ki kite o koutou. Kia koe Rex, e roa te wā, e hoa, whai ki kite o koe, hara mai i tautoko tēnei kaupapa me o tauira, i noho i tō taha, nō reira tēnā koe, mo tō mahi kei roa tēnei ruma, i ngā wai mua hoki, mo te hapore nei, nō reira, kaore kore, e mihi atu kia koe hoki, Glenn, te kai kaunihera takito o te ratu taha o te taone nei, nō reira whai ki kite tō kōnohi mene, hei hara mai hoki i tēnei rā, nō reira tēnā koe koutou katoa, kua rawi ko mai tēnei rā, tēnā koutou, huri noa, tēnā tata katoa. Kia ora. Strategy and policy, hui, and just acknowledging Vicky being in the chair's role for a new dawn for ECAN and our new committee structure. So good to have Vicky here to lead us through this committee, and also Nick, our South Canterbury representative here today as well, leading our regional development committee as well. So to you both, all the best. We're here to support you 100%, and we'll back you all the way. Just acknowledging Rex Williams here, who's been in this room in your work in here, but also in the community as well, and then just your leadership. Thank you, and of course ex-councillor Glenn Livingston, who's we won't talk about that other council across the way, but just acknowledging you as well, Glenn, for your work in and around the community of Otautahi, the work that you've did for 9 years, and in supporting also a lot of the work we've done here at ECAN. So to you both, tēnā kōrua, everyone here today. We're looking forward to our two committees moving forward, and on behalf of Environment Canterbury, tēnā koutou, tēnā tata katoa. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you so much for the welcome, and welcome to all our guests that are in here today. It's always great to see people from the public come into our meetings, and it's really an important part of democracy. We've got Councillor Swiggs online. Oh, we've got a quorum. We've definitely got a good quorum. So the meeting's open. We have Councillor Swiggs who's online, and we do have a change of order for business, change of order of business. So just stating that. So item 7.2, which is the paper on plan change 8, has been withdrawn. And so I think Chair Scott will give some explanation for that, and then I see if she'd like to add some more.
Not just briefly, I think that we need some more detail around that paper when we don't take advice at the start of the day. This stuff happens pretty quickly to us over the last 36 to 48 hours, and the consideration would be that we need a better opportunity to have an oral conversation. Our legal advice was that we need to use the next 2 weeks, I guess, to get ourselves sorted out. Where we are with that, there seems to be some need for us to make some readjustments, but we will do that, and we will bring that paper to the 28th, the council meeting on the 28th for consideration then. So that's about all I can say there.
Stephanie, would you like to add any more to that?
Thank you, through you, Chair. I just note that we also received some information very late yesterday afternoon. It was only shared with the Chair and Deputy Chair of this committee. Full Council has not had an opportunity to see that material. It would be much wiser to be able to remove that paper and bring you a proper briefing so that you can be in proper mode for good decision making on the 28th.
Thank you. So then apologies. We have an apology for early departure from Chair Scott. That's the case, yep. And Councillor Sunkel is an apology also. Can I ask, do we have any conflicts of interest on any of the items today? No, that's anyone. We don't have any deputations, public forums or petitions today. Do we have any extraordinary or urgent business? Not aware of any. Right. And no notices of motion. So then we'll go through to report item 7.1, which is development of the committee forward work programme. And so we have Emma Davis, who'd like to come to the table. So Emma is our senior strategy manager, and she'll introduce the report to us.
Thank you, Chair, Tēnā koutou councillors. So with the standing up of the new Strategy and Policy Committee, we are looking to develop a forward work programme. So this report outlines the process for development of this, and this will be come back to the committee meeting in October with further development. We see this committee as providing a really transformational opportunity to support this council's strategic conversations and decision making, particularly around its sort of key strategic aspirations. It's really a significant opportunity to take a really forward-looking view of what the work is of the council, what the decisions are that need to be made. And so the proposal is that a forward work programme will be used to really set the agenda around the three core services and those key strategic issues facing the council in their role. It will cover the three core services as well as updates on the sort of external context that we are operating in and emerging issues and trends facing this regional council. So the paper outlines a bit more detail of that, and it's important to note we want to have that forward-looking programme, but recognising that we also will need to be agile, obviously, as issues emerge and come up, and we'll work closely with the chair and deputy chair of the committee, along with the committee director. So do we have any questions? Councillor Robinson.
Thanks, Emma. Just with regards to page 10, and one of the bullet points on number 12, it talks about submissions on key issues looking into the future and the ability for council and councillors with staff to actually submit on particular issues. With regards to one particular mineral strategy to 2040, and I sought some advice on why we didn't submit on that. We'd actually already missed the deadline. I just wondered what the prerequisite is for submissions such as that, where certain things in our environment could be either at risk or can council see anything that comes forward, and maybe we have an ability to comment at least or submit in our own right if staff don't feel they have the capacity or the likes. I just felt that one was actually very timely, considering that this morning it was mentioned of oil and gas exploration potential in Petitions. Thank you.
So we did adopt a submission policy, or the council adopted a submission policy back in October 2021, and we do recognise that we want to sort of constantly review that. One of the things that we give really consideration to in the decision on whether to submit on a government proposal is the degree to which we can influence, and also the applicability to the regional council's core role. We obviously need to think about where we are focusing our effort in terms of advocacy and making submissions on particular issues. So that's kind of the basis of the decision making. In the example of the recent mineral strategy, one just to talk to that, when we had a look particularly at some of the key actions in there and where we can be influential, we looked at what some of the steps of that were, and there were two particular areas like the fast track approvals bill, also the recent the RM amendment legislation that's going on. Those are the mechanisms that that strategy was sort of looking at as actions. Both of those, the fast track consenting bill and the RM amendment act, you'll be aware we've made submissions on. So we considered that was really the focus of where we could have the most influence and focus our resources on in terms of that particular strategy, rather than looking at some resourcing to apply to that.
I guess following on from that, and I understand where you're coming from, do you think in future it could be achieved by putting at the front of council for us to determine that?
Absolutely, and that's to your second point, Councillor. So we absolutely acknowledge that, and that's one of the opportunities through the Forward Work Programme. So we will look at that, because we really do also want to take into, of course, consideration of what councillors want to make a submission on. So we acknowledge that.
So is this relevant specifically to this? Another question. Okay, so we'll go in order. So I've got Councillor Burns, Councillor Karakia.
Kia ora, thanks, Chair. It's really exciting to hear the word transformational used, and so well done on that so far. And you quoted saying forward-looking view on decisions that need to be made. My question is, has there been an identifiable gap in this space? And if so, can you just flesh that out a wee bit more, please?
We're sort of looking at the opportunity to go forward, and particularly I think that in the current context where there is a lot on the government agenda, we've been, through the 3 core services model, we've been very focused as an organisation to look at what are our priorities, and so this provides that opportunity to really focus on those. That's been the development of this approach, and I think that we think it's a really good approach to pick up where there, if there's been any gaps or not. It's looking forward.
Councillor Karakia. Oh, sorry.
Ia te kākui kia mana. Tami o te whakawhetai o Māngai Cranwell mō tō Mihi Whakatau e Mihi atu. Kia ora, Emma. I just want to turn to page 12 and I want to make an observation and also have a question, and it refers to engagement, civic significance and Māori participation. Point number 19. First of all, I just want to highlight the reaffirmation that this committee is committed to its governance arrangements, working in the spirit of genuine partnership with Ngāi. So that is the first thing. And the next one, that's the observation. The next one is the question. In number 20, no specific external engagement has been undertaken on the Forward Work Programme and is intended as an internal tool to set agendas. So can you just elaborate a little bit more on that one? Because I have my thoughts actually around how it should take place. I just want you to confirm that my thoughts are actually aligned with yours. Got it.
So the work program is intended to give a forward look at the papers that are coming to this committee. And so it's to have a look at that sort of forecast. It will obviously cover a really broad range of strategic issues. And so where those arise, we will use all of the sort of engagement opportunities that we have to have the conversations that we need to. And some of those will be, quite sort of topic based, and where we need to undertake further engagement on particular issues, then we would certainly intend to do that. And working closely with the career team and the conversations that are going on with Runanga and some of those reset conversations. So that's how we see sort of bringing in that kōrero and dialogue and information into the work program. But it's essentially sets out the topics that will come first into it.
Supplementary. Thank you for that. I would think that the two important vehicles would be Pahiringa and then also Te Rōpūturia. Would that be correct? That's the main vehicle.
Yes, and we will obviously, absolutely, in terms of looking at issues,
Look, I'll leave my comment to be made after we vote the recommendations.
So are we, no one else got another question? If anyone, Councillor Mackenzie.
Sorry, I pushed it. Bullet point 12, where you talk about the forward work program and the topics. Seems to me there are some significant omissions there, and I wonder why, given that we've discussed our need for an energy strategy, why that isn't included. I've been concerned for a long time that we don't seem to ever consider waste management as something that we should have an involvement in, and yet we have positions on stopping innovative ways of dealing with waste. And I wonder whether coastal inundation could be specifically included in the community preparedness and response to hazards. It's an issue that needs some considerable strategic direction from not only this council but central government, but I think it needs to be on the agenda.
Thank you for that. So I think that's a good question. So Emma, thank you very much. You can keep able. So I'll put the motion first, and then we'll have some discussion. So the recommendations on page 8 of our agenda. We have the strategy and policy committee up on the screen. Oh, we've got it on the screen, so you can see that. So do I have a mover? The Chair Scott and a seconder. Therefore, Deputy Chair Pauling. So that's been moved. So yeah, any discussion? So, Kat.
I was just really going to congratulate Councillor Southworth, Councillor Swiggs for taking on this role of such an important committee, a new direction, as it's been said, transformational. They were the words developed in 2020 for our first real go at strategic direction. And Vicky, you were part of that process as well. And I know your high environmental ethic. In terms of the core delivery sections as well. I'm looking forward to taking a more holistic and integrated approach to the way we deliver the outcomes for our community. And I know that the various descriptions under these core services are only preliminary. There's a long way to go, further discussions to be had, but it's a great start, and I look forward to the evolution of this committee and the work that it does.
Yeah, so my comment, I guess, is around public transport and how public transport sets itself up between strategy and delivery. And note that Councillor Davies has been given the portfolio, the lead on public transport in one of those 3 core service delivery areas. And it will be interesting to see how we integrate the operational with the strategic in this area. I mean, it's probably our itchiest problem after night trains. It's our biggest spend, $160 to $170 million a year. Essentially just goes in one end and out the other. Rex will attest to having some expertise in that area. So I just think that we need to give that some thought about how we handle operations and strategic stuff. And the point I'm trying to make, Madam Chair, I'll be interested in your comment actually, but the point I'm trying to make is this is number 1 meeting for this. Number 1 meeting for regional government will come. And I think that the overriding sentiment that we have is that the people that are leading these committees need to get on and get things done. But I just wonder how we avoid stepping on other people's toes that have some responsibility in those areas also, because I know that, we've talked about how do we integrate risk, all those sorts of things. And I don't, if you don't want to answer that, Chair, you don't have to, but that's my interest in this, actually.
So I'll perhaps answer that. So I really hope that we can work collaboratively and really constructive. I think we've sort of been together now for a couple of years, and I think we've demonstrated, particularly through the last long-term plan, that we can really home in on key issues and find answers that we can we'll get the majority of us at least can get well behind. So, and I definitely want to have an open door, open ears, and take on board what people see as concerns. And I think we should get together as a council, actually. It's not just on me to decide, and Councillor Swiggs, who I will enjoy working with, and I know we'll be able to, nut things out together, but we need to make sure we keep you guys all across what we're thinking and get your input and prioritise based on broad table perspective. I'll say a wee bit more at the end, but in the meantime, I've got Councillor Mackay who'd like to.
Yeah, thanks very much. Through the Chair, mine does sort of tie in quite nicely with Chair Scott's comments there, and it's around page 12, the point at the bottom there around that we could develop and review council's regulatory and non-regulatory strategies, and the example there, the first one included was around a matter such as gravel management strategy. And I do note that it's actually reviewed in the regional delivery committee this afternoon on page 44 of that agenda. And it just talks about still doing issues and options papers for 24-25. I do think that this is quite a important matter that should be prioritised. It's been sitting, spinning its wheels, for want of a better word, for quite a period of time now, and it's certainly at the centre of quite a few issues that are brought to me as a constituent. So hopefully that could be quite high up on the priority list.
So, Councillor Burns.
Good, thanks, Chair. My question is, and I don't want to get bogged down in detail, but will the regional biodiversity strategy revitalisation be under this committee?
That's my understanding. Yeah. Anyone else?
I just like to echo what impact of the fires have said. We've got some of the problems in South Carolina.
And I think this speaks to my point that we need to actually collectively come together, look at what's been on the work, this sort of plan for strategy, and look at what's been raised, what's most urgent, and come together on that. So, Councillor Clinton.
But just on that, it seemed to me that the leads in the core services will be
helping to work with you as the chair of the Transport Committee, Vicky, to come to a position on some of these things when they clearly fit in the core services portfolio.
Yeah, that really goes without saying. So we do, just to acknowledge, we've got 3 core service leads. So Councillor Mackenzie for the, and I always get this wrong, it's community preparedness and response to hazards. And then we've got Councillor Davies, who is public transport lead, and we have Councillor Mackay, who is the ERP, which is the Environmental Regulation and Protection stand. So absolutely they're critical across both delivery, as we'll see in the later meeting today and here. So really just to sort of say, like, the transformation, there's no pressure. Eh? Yeah, transformation, we've been talking about transformation for a long time. We know that challenge, the big ones that I feel really concerned about: climate change, biodiversity. I know that that's potential pressure on the rural sector, and that needs to be acknowledged and considered. Also for the urban population, public transport, of course, is a really significant part of the work we do, and that's an absolutely fundamental part of enabling our urban population to reduce their reliance on individual private vehicles and so on. So lots of challenges, lots of change underway. I think the point of the strategy is that we're looking, longer term. We need to plan our programme. I would like to see us looking at the 3-year and 10-year, and having that long-term vision and being able to sort of see how we can sort of keep heading towards those ultimate goals of becoming a decarbonised or low emissions region, that we're making the opportunities that there are to really show to New Zealand what can be done when you put your mind to it. So we'll work on a plan, and that's what this paper is about. And listening in, absolutely, energy waste, coastal road. And there's a whole gambit. Unfortunately, we've sort of been a little bit off the boil in terms of addressing a lot of these things over the last 20, 30 years. And so there's more work to do now. So yeah, we'll look at that and work out what we can do and what our biggest gains and how best we can approach these things and work with all the councils to that end. So I think we've got one more, another comment.
Kia ora, kia mana. Mihi Whakakapi, namaste to your deputy, actually, who's I believe in India. So kia ora to him. Can I just turn to page 11? And I'm just looking at point, it's a bullet point 3 on page 11. It goes down evolving the nature of Te Rito Waitangi related jurisprudence. So just a question on that is, so I understand what jurisprudence is, particularly around the analysis, interpretation of the law. But on that final one, so it starts, strategic advice and policy approaches on the Council's ability to meet the aim to demonstrate treaty partner excellence, including changing central government expectations. Is that a kind of a prerequisite to possibly, are we talking already about possible changes to treaty principles?
Perhaps I answered that. I don't think that's what was anticipated in that. I think it was just saying that there is a changing external environment in which we operate, and so we need to take the external environment into consideration as we have strategic conversations with you. If anybody in the back of the room has any other thoughts on that, that was where I saw that. It's part of the context in which we operate, I suppose, is the way I saw that.
Anyone else who's got any interpretation of this? Because you just have to be a bit careful here, particularly within the environment that has been kind of developed over the beginning of this new regime that's in government at the moment. And I just don't want it to be seen as something that could be quite detrimental to what the actual or interpreted wrong, because I can see actually what we're wanting to do, but the road to ruin is paved with good intention sometimes. on this. So it's just the optics actually of how we're putting this here at the moment.
Thank you, Chair. What I will add to this is there have been numerous rallies, get-togethers over the last year to 18 months, culminating on Saturday with a rally at the Square, with people voicing concerns that Councillor Karakia has raised about the role of the treaty, about the role of how it sits within the country itself, not only central, local, and regional government. So, again, we need to be very mindful of the fact that the basis of this country is the treaty. So, not sure that supports you, not, but it's certainly something that the community out there have grave concerns about as well.
Councillor Robinson. I just want to agree with that, what Milk was saying. I think it's probably the wording of it. I think it needs to be revisited before this is actually put through today. And is it available to do on the hop? I just don't think it's worded to of any benefit to what we're trying to get through. I guess. Well, I mean, it's up to. I mean, it depends who wrote it and their interpretation. Because clearly, you're not sure of the actual nature of it either. So, who wrote it, and can we change it?
Kia ora, Tia Mana. I know we had a pre-meeting on this paper, and I only really thought about it actually reading it through again. But you could possibly this is I want to present a way forward. You could actually, between including and changing, you could put including possible changing central government expectations.
So noting it, yeah, the noting a change to the wording within the paper because it's not a recommendation. It's not in the not that part, but we make a note to adjust. Can we adjust the? How does that work? Sorry, I'll just take a moment. Okay, so Councillor Karakia, we could either make an amendment, put in a different recommendation, or we could either put in a different recommendation, or we could amend, put in a note to amend some of the wording, which would be a simpler process. And if you'd like to contribute to wording that you think would be suitable.
Yeah, kia ora. I mean, I would. I think a note would suffice. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
What I'll do, I'll adjourn for a moment and call up. If you'd like to come up, and we'll get some wording sorted. So we'll just adjourn for a moment. Kia ora. We'll come back to the meeting. So we're going to note, and this will go into the minutes. We're going to add the word possible into the paragraph. So we'll have that strategic advice and policy approaches on the Council's ability to meet aims to demonstrate treaty partner excellence, including possible changes. Sorry, including possible changing central government expectations. We'll just pop the word possible in there, and that'll be noted in the next minutes. And Councillor Karakia was happy with that. Anybody else got any objections or comments? Councillor Scott?
Look, I just think that the point here is when we're talking in this room about partnership, we're not a treaty partner. The partnership exists for the Crown. And so, look, we'll be subject to what comes out of, I mean, this is my thought on this, we'll be subject to what comes out of Wellington, just like we'll be subject to what comes out to Wellington on any environmental regulations, any changes in local government regulations, any change in a number of regulations, we react to that. And so, I mean, my question to you, Councillor Karakia, and I'm prepared to bow to your knowledge on this, is that are we drawing a bit of a long bow on this, or how do you see it?
Peter, when we were in this discussion, we talked about partnership, right? Partnership between us and Ngā Whakakapi Runanga. Okay? Te Papu Ngā Whakakapi Runanga, you are an entity of the Crown. You are the face of the Crown.
what gets delegated down, you represent. I mean, he can represent. So I mean, I don't agree with the line we've just gone through. So just yeah, I'll put that through the record.
Just the point is that if I'm not going to further this debate in this chamber about that, I made the point that I wanted to make, and I'll further that debate with you, Councillor Cranwell, outside the chamber.
So, Councillor Karakia.
Kia ora. I didn't mean this to be long and truncated, but there's a Whakatau, and actually, if you want to, in English, it basically is interpreted by the taniwha has many faces, and we can talk a lot about the treaty partnership, because in some of the preamble to this, actually, some of it is actually explained. But I'm with my colleague, Councillor Cranwell, is that when we're talking about this, and you just look at that wall there about the 2-year agreement, that is what partnership is. And it's underpinned, actually, the treaty partnership is underpinned by that. And you're absolutely right. When you understand the whole workings of the Papatupu Runanga, we are indeed partners. That's the way they see it. And so we're bringing that voice from the Papatupu to this table, and this is actually what our recommendation is. And understand what Peter's saying, absolutely. No need to bow. But that is how we see it, because what gets lost in translation here, if there's something like this, is that it looks like it's a preemption of the possible changes to the principles of the treaty. And that's where we're coming from. Let's try and short circuit that and be very clear in our paper exactly what we're trying to do here.
And I'll just to note to that, I know, for example, in the submission that's the final paper, we're really clear about our support of the principles of stability and that partnership. So we make it very clear in every submission that we do. But yeah, it's important that we understand. Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
I just actually wanted a comment in support of Yayan's comments and not. No, I actually found it quite offensive, those comments, and were out of order, mainly because the efforts we've put in. Yes, I am talking about your comments, and I'm speaking at the moment, sorry, but I find it very offensive, considering that whether or not the Crown is in the mix, when I walk into a marae being invited in its own right, and I stand beside each runanga that invites me to stand on their grounds, and I think it's a privilege. And I think comments like that are just inflaming something that is not necessary. That's just my view. And I thank you, Graham, for bringing that.
Kia ora. Again, everyone seems to want to get the last word, but I will remind councillors that we have sat in this chamber and heard from the chair of Mana Whenua Naituakuriri that we are not treaty partners. We are a set-up of statute. And the partnership up here is a relationship between the Papatupu Runanga and us as a regional council. It is a fantastic journey, hikoi, along from there to there, and long may it exist. But again, my belief is Chair Scott only was stating the fact that we heard here straight from the kaupakahaere of Naituakuriri. Thank you.
Through the chair, good point. Just in reply to Councillor Burns, that was kote, as Councillor Koraku said. There's many faces. That's kote. There's 9 other faces around the table. And those other 9, they're on the wall behind us. Yes, partnership, but just know that to them, the other 9 might talk about one. The other 9 do believe there is a partnership, and the basis of that is Te Whiti o Waitangi. And if you have an issue with that, we can talk later. Sure.
Okay, so everyone, it's been a good debate, lots of commentary, and good to understand where on those differences of opinion. And I think ultimately it comes down to how we actually work and the progress that we make on, work programs we have, and that we listen and understand what we need to do to be, working forward. Councillor Paul,
Personal attached to land brought up, and that's pretty clear in our legislation that underpins our organisation of local government act and RMA. The Treaty of Waitangi is the basis where it is, and we are in a partnership with a couple of the Runang. It's on the wall behind us, like Never said. So I don't even really know why we're debating that. So,
well, I think we've got a mover and seconder for the. So we've got the recommendation moved. So can I ask all those who are in favour of the recommendation, please say aye. Any against? Right, so that's carried. Thank you. So then we've withdrawn paper 7.2. So we'll move straight through to item 8.1. And this is the Regional Policy Statement Review update on Clause 3 consultation. So Andrew Parish, please come to the table. Andrew's our Regional Planning Manager, and he'll introduce this report. And we have Lisa Jenkins, who's our Team Leader of Planning, Land and Water, also joining Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're just tabling some papers now.
Okay, so we're just receiving some additional information being tabled, which is, I think, a summary of the themes that have come out through the submissions that we've received on this to date. And we've also had an email come through to councillors on this as well.
the question, could I suggest that we have some time to read this? Like, I know we're getting the presentation, but I'd like to read this before that. We have like 5 to 10 minutes.
I think that's a good suggestion. So yeah, we will adjourn for, we'll say 10 minutes. So till 11:27, that will be precisely. Okay, we're at past. We get to start. We can hear from Andrew and Lisa. Is that okay with your council? Yeah. Yeah. I think we'll have quite a lot more to be looking at these over the next month or two. Also. Okay. Take you like.
Kia ora, councillors. In May this year, you agreed through Te Raupu Tuia that the RPS was in a state where you'd like to get a little bit further information. Through that process, we used Clause 3 of Schedule 1 to the Resource Management Act to not just consult the standard list of parties, but a broader list of parties. Those people who had engaged through the Let's Pick a Path and the What's Your Future campaigns and provided us with some written feedback. We took the regional policy statement out to around 160 different stakeholder groups, and you'll see in the memo that you have in front of you that 71 provided feedback by the closing period on 31st of July. That number's now 83 of those parties have come back to us. We received feedback from a wide cross-section of the community through that process. And the purpose of today's briefing was to table publicly a summary of the feedback that we've received through that process. You've now had an opportunity to read through that summary, and I'm not going to use the time through this meeting to provide what I did have in terms of a summary of this summary here. Rather, I'd like to use the time that I have in front of you today to talk to you about some of the next steps that we have going forward. We have an opportunity tomorrow at a council briefing to walk through this memo in a little bit more depth and to provide you as councillors with copies of all of the feedback that's come through.
absolutely possible for us to release all of this feedback to the wider public. But at the same time, we've got more work to do. We received an awful lot of feedback, and if we are going to release it to the wider public, we need to redact the names and addresses to preserve the people that engage through this process privately. Tomorrow is simply the first of those briefings, though. On the 29th of August, we have our first in-depth briefing workshop on this feedback. At that briefing, we're going to look at the natural character, natural features and landscapes, historical and cultural values, and the coastal section of the regional policy statement. On the 5th of September, there's a workshop that's organised to discuss the urban form, the energy, infrastructure and transport, and the hazards sections along with the air section of the regional policy statement. On the 12th of September, we have a briefing to talk about the land and freshwater sections of feedback that came on the regional policy statement. Now, we also have an obligation to keep working and talking with our partners. There's a Te Raupu Tuia briefing that's now scheduled for the 30th of August. We're going to talk with our partner in an open discussion through that meeting about some of the feedback that's come through. On the 10th of October, we have another councillor briefing, this time to present an updated version of the regional policy statement draft. Taking some of the guidance that you will provide through those earlier briefings I've talked about, and the Te Raupu Tuia briefing on the 30th of August, using that information to redraft the regional policy statement. That 10th of October meeting will be the opportunity for you to see the updated draft of the regional policy statement. On the 8th of November is Te Raupu Tuia again. And prior to Te Raupu Tuia on the 7th of November, we have another councillor briefing. Talk about how we're going to have that conversation with our partner going forward. On the 14th of November, there is a council briefing to discuss the notification requirements of the regional policy statement. Before the 27th of November meeting, where we've got scheduled to adopt the regional policy statement for full public engagement. And that is the opportunity for everyone, and I've used the term in the entire universe before in front of you, and that is true. Anyone in the world can make a submission on the regional policy statement when it goes out for full public engagement. The statutory minimum is 40 working days for that document to be out for public consultation. And if you would like to have further engagement over that period, then I'd welcome your recommendation or your decision to extend that period of public consultation to more than the statutory minimum of 40 working days. You will have all had an opportunity to read that feedback, and you will have seen people commenting on the need to have full engagement through that. Hence the reason why I'm putting it on the table today. I'm just going to go all the way back to the beginning again, back to the recommendations that are included in this paper. We're asking you as a council today to note that the feedback period on the regional policy statement through Clause 3 of Schedule 1 to the Resource Management Act is now closed. And to receive the tabled summary of feedback that we've provided to you today, noting that this is just simply a way of being able to provide through a public meeting a summary of that, and to enable us to start to move into the briefing and workshop where we really get deep down into that feedback and start to get your recommendations as to how to update the regional policy statement before your eventual decision on notification on the 27th of November. Kia ora, councillors.
Just a question. Hey, thanks, Andrew, for those dates. I'm assuming you're going to provide a list of the dates. Will we go through those dates tomorrow? Because I don't have them in there. I'll probably up and down.
We can email them too.
Councillor McKenzie, with your questions now, and then I'll debate.
Craig was my first question. Second question is on the 10th of October, when we get the redrafted version of the RPS, will we have a chance to see that before that meeting, or will we be given 10 minutes to the 185 pages?
When we give you an updated version of the regional policy statement on before the 10th of October, Councillor McKenzie, that will be a track change version of the regional policy statement. It will show where changes have been made, but it won't go back and say this person's feedback prompted those changes. It will simply be a track changes version of the regional policy statement so that you can have it in your mind as to what you agreed in May into the document, which should get some further information through the clause 3 process. And what you now have in terms of a document to consider, whether that is your regional policy statement or adopt or notify.
Councillor Karakia.
Kia ora, Andrew. Hey, just on page 1, and the second paragraph and the final sentence there, councillors will be provided copies of all written feedback to ensure you get a full and transparent view of feedback received. So my question is, and what you're saying also, that it will go out to the wider public, redacted. So is that the normal process, that feedback is shared widely amongst submitters?
The feedback is information that the council holds, and it could be requested under employment. We have, in the past, not released this clause 3 to schedule feedback. But I think, given the wide range of views, you can either proactively choose to release that information, or you can have people ask the council for it. When we do get a appointment, my understanding of the council's process is that the information is sent to the person who made the appointment, but to ensure that we're giving that to the full public. That if it's interesting to one person, it might be interesting to others. We put that on our website. So we can either be proactive, Councillor Karakia, or we can wait for someone to request that information. I think we get to the same place.
Kia ora, supplementary. Thank you for that, because I know that we've got a briefing tomorrow, and then from there we will move forward. Yeah. The goima is an interesting animal, isn't it? Because maybe it's just one person, but usually one of those people are the pānui out to the rest of the world. So, yeah, kia ora. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly a wide, diverse range of views on these. And I do like the idea of choosing to be proactive, and that's in keeping with the Ombudsman's approach to open government and transparency. The views I've just skimmed through, to me, when we went out in July, there was a worry that the targeted group of people that we've gone to was not broad enough, and that we could possibly get a bit more of a skewed view coming from that. And they're predominantly related to Schedule 3, Clause 1, A to the E. But Clause 2 of Schedule 3 talks about that we have the ability to go to anyone else in the preparation of this thing. And I feel that we haven't gone to some groups who are especially perhaps have an environmental focus or take a slightly different point of view. And I wondered if you to put that schedule, so are there shortcomings in what we've done? And is there an opportunity to still use the Schedule 3 process to seek some comment from other people? or of organisations.
This morning, noting that that concern is one of governance, I had a chat to Philip Moore, who is a partner at Wynn Williams around this issue, and I asked him his view on that. His view was that if you're going to undertake a Clause 3 Schedule 1 process, only notifying to the statutory parties is the lowest risk approach. Every additional party that you add in creates legislative risk. What may be more appropriate in Philip's mind? And I think I agree with them, because I think if there is a concern that we haven't engaged fully enough, there are other pathways. One pathway might be that we release a draft of the regional policy statement prior to notification of formal notification. Now, the legal risk on that is very low. The consequence, though, of doing that is that you're almost running two hearings. You're running firstly a hearing on the draft, and then you're running with another hearing when you formally notify the document. I think the other risk that we have sitting in front of us is I have taken from you a very strong desire to achieve a December 2024 notification. And I've given recommendations based on that desire for this council as to how to achieve a regional policy statement by that date. I'm very happy to talk to you about other options in terms of how we can engage more fully prior to formal notification. But I do need to add that risk onto the table, that notification by December this year, adding in another step like that is simply not possible. But that's not me saying no. If there's a governance direction to go and have further conversations with our community, I will welcome that direction from you as our council.
Supplementary point. Thank you for that. I completely understand that, and I agree that the 24th December or December notification is absolutely paramount. And really, what you're suggesting too is that even though we might notify during that time, there is an opportunity to extend the feedback time for that beyond the 40 days. And that too is a pathway that we could consider to give those other organisations a little bit more time, especially over the Christmas period, holiday period, that will fall within. So maybe providing some advice to us tomorrow on that issue.
Yeah, I'd support that. It's an area I've had some concern about. I think we need further discussion, because there's obviously a real tension here between having that breadth of stakeholder engagement and having that sort of fairness, and also the time frame. So it's difficult. I appreciate that. So I've got Councillor East. No question?
Thank you. We've just had this document delivered to us today, and quite a bit to digest in a short period of time. And I've pretty much gone through the RPS for the one tooth comb, and for me, there's a lot of wording and the issues that I have with the current document. Then I noted paper here now themes of feedback, and in that area there's talk of a number of an amount of feedback around delaying notification until government resource management reform is occurred, and delay in notification until after the Christmas period. We've just had a bit of discussion on that. I'm primarily interested in the level of feedback from these organisations that we have that would support any delay in notification, either until further RMA reform has occurred or after the Christmas period. So I'm hearing sort of a bit of mixed messaging at the moment that we as a body have indicated that we'd like to notify by Christmas, but then conversely I'm reading some feedback. I'm not sure of the quantum in terms of time and engagement opportunities, and whether we are being a little ambitious in going for notification in December. So I'd like a little bit more information on the level of feedback around whether we're pushing a bit hard for notification in December, or whether we're going to do justice both to ourselves and our stakeholders in making sure that we have the document absolutely fit for purpose before we put it out. So,
I think good question, Councillor East. I note that today we're not making a decision on this. So I'd suggest that, we leave that discussion until the briefing and then when we have to make that decision. But a very good question and happy for it to be answered, but maybe not today, but when we go through the next stages. So that's my thought on it.
Councillor Burns.
Kia ora. Thank you, Chair. I'll keep mine brief. But I do want to acknowledge, before I ask my question, the extreme amount of work and pressure that's been put on yourself, your staff. Thank you. I really do appreciate that. My question is, have you generally been happy with the amount and sort of variety of feedback, or are you disappointed? Pretty simple.
So, when you're on a time pressure to deliver something by December, receiving more than 4,000 pages was not what I asked for Christmas. In saying that, this document is the council's statutory obligation to create, but it provides direction for a region. And if we don't have parts of it right, I welcome feedback from our community. I don't necessarily get particularly concerned about who makes the feedback, particularly at this point in time. I feel that the feedback that we receive very much can have all the names taken away from it, the ideas put on paper, and for that contest of ideas to be one that you make some decisions on. And I think if there was one recommendation I could make, is don't think too carefully about who made the feedback, but think, does it fit with your strategic direction as a council and the space and the direction that you want to take the region going over time?
Mackay. Thank you, through your chair. Just seeking some clarity, Andrew. My understanding is that there hasn't been any enough developed since the Land and Water Regional Plan and its plan changes have been developed. Now, a lot of the plan changes, of course, were zone committees. Latterly, we're involved in regional committee and zone committees earlier on. Is this example where we've gone out and got engagement last year that informed what has been put in this draft largely, is a fair representation of going over and above what we would normally do? Thank you, Kevin.
When we go out and ask our community, what would you like the future to be and how do we get there? The challenge that you have as a council leading a region is one where your community asks you for everything, but ultimately there are tough choices sitting underneath that. And I think that while we received universal positive support through the Let's Pick a Path and the What's Your Future campaigns, they were easy because we were just asking, what would you like to see? You've seen a bit more feedback come back through this process, and you will see more, particularly when we get to formal notification. And that's because you have made some tough choices along with your partner around how to take the region forward. And you put those down on paper and you've tested that with the wider community. Now, I guess the opportunity is for you to go Do we choose this way or do we choose that way? And that's why we've put such a lot of your work program. You know, I rattled through a lot of dates. We haven't talked to you about the RTS like this. But this is because we're at front point with that sort of decision. And it is really important for your ERT core service to drive that forward and to align that regulatory framework.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question about how, so noting Councillor East's comment about the quantum, and this is being so, you know, sort of implies that if we had a certain weight of responses back, that there's a certain thing that you therefore weight that response more strongly. And this sort of speaks to that concern around breadth and the balance of the stakeholders. So I note, for example, that the environmental advocacy groups that we have out of that whole rank of stakeholders is 7. So not very many, and of the community interest groups, there are no urban community interest groups in there at all. And so how do you weigh up, how do you balance this difference that's coming through in the feedback, and also what you received at the prior phases of engagement to sort of advise us going forward when, yeah, how do you do that?
We've spoken about one point, and I'll risk fury and use Councillor East's point as the one. We maybe we received feedback from, and I don't know the number because I haven't done this analysis because it's actually not what's in my head, but let's imagine we had 15 people saying delay, one person saying keep with the time. I don't think about the 15 to 1. This is what I was trying to talk to you about in terms of a contest of ideas. Think about what would the no delay look like in terms of pros and cons? What would a delay look like in terms of pros and cons? And then I bring that recommendation to you as a council and ask for your feedback. In saying that, you know, we have through the let's pick apart them. What's your future campaign? We did get less from some of those other groups, particularly in writing. And maybe that's a mistake, and maybe that's something we can look at changing moving forward. And I'm really open to that. But at the same time, we have received more negative feedback from some of those rural industry type groups than some of the ENGO type groups who've been very supportive of the document. That doesn't mean that when we bring it back, we're going to say, look, there's only one forest and bird in the region, but there's 18 irrigation schemes. Therefore, the 18 irrigation schemes weigh this much. That's not even part of the analysis that Lisa and I do. We don't look at the names. We will provide them to you in terms of all the submissions. But when we bring this feedback back, we're not going to talk who gave the feedback. We're going to present the ideas that were presented to us through that feedback. And that's how we mitigate, at least on our side, any perceived bias around picking a winner or not picking a winner. But if you wish to read the feedback and do that, well, that's your role as governors. But it's not what we do as staff to present you our recommendations.
It's useful to hear, so thank you for that. Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, thank you. And I also acknowledge your massive work and load. And sorry, got more ahead. I hear you, but I also acknowledge that when often data is brought to us, it's analysed in either a graph or a pie chart of who said what and what proportion of those, the feedback, they wanted more biodiversity or whatever. So I guess if you've got a larger proportion of one industry or people, then you're going to still see that in representation and feedback. Whether or not you analyse it one way or another. So I've actually analysed the feedback groups, and I'm sorry, I do have to discuss it because I think that's really important. Apart from Runanga, which is understandable, and government departments, there's been 13 councils, 2 port companies, 3 transport agencies, 5 power or energy companies, 10 irrigation, 11 agricultural industries, and only 6 NGOs.
out of those NGOs, 0 coastal targeted groups, and no one looking holistically at water allocation, only quality. So we do have a bit of an imbalance, and whether or not we can do anything now, I think it's great that we need to take that on board, because it's definitely not covering all bases. So I just hope that some of those groups are part of the next stage, because it's very vital.
I'm really interested in all of this feedback. And I wonder if we can have a more fulsome discussion around this tomorrow rather than today in the meeting. It feels more like a workshop topic where we're picking a pathway forward.
You literally were what I was about to say. So yeah, so we'll do that tomorrow. Just a final question, Andrew. You mentioned that I think staff have been having staff-to-staff conversations with the territorial authorities, and just wondering whether you've got a view on council, because we haven't really had an opportunity to talk about the RTS with our fellow Gov council level councillors. So is that something that would be welcomed, or is that for me to decide?
Ultimately, I'm a staff member and I make recommendations to you and you make decisions. But if I had to make a recommendation on this one, I would say, yes, we need your support and that political level with the territorial authorities. They have aspirations just like you do, and they have to give effect to the RTS just like you do. And I think that you will learn a lot from talking with the TAs, just like me and my team have learned an awful lot talking with the territorial authorities. Things as simple as understanding the impact that we might have to try and achieve better water quality outcomes by better managing on-site wastewaters has social consequences that we've heard about at a staff level in terms of small rural communities. And I think it's really important to understand both sides of that.
Thank you. So I think we'll wrap up the debate, the question time. So Andrew, Lisa, thank you for your time. Step back. So then I need to put the motion that we've got, recommendations for this paper. So do I have they're on the screen? Yep. So Councillor Burns and second Councillor Robinson. So I will just signal that. Okay, so I was just taking some advice on whether we should do something in the minutes around arranging meetings with the TAs, councillor to councillor, but staff will handle that, so we don't do anything in the minutes to think of that. So we've got a mover and a seconder. So anyone got anything they'd like to add at this point? So sorry, mover. So Councillor Burns, would you like to speak? Councillor Robinson?
Just my comments that I said before about the proportion of industry versus I know that we're going to talk about it in a workshop as such, but I really wanted it to be out there on the record that there's very big gaps, and fortunately, so just want it noted by somebody somehow. Thank you. Thanks.
So yeah, I just want to acknowledge all the work that's going on too. It's not in the room anymore, but hopefully they are doing this. So just really acknowledging all the work that's been done. Really good to get this themed feedback from the process. And yeah, I mean, interesting when you look through it. You could have got some that want it to go further, some that don't want it, it doesn't go far enough. I think that's actually quite a good bit of feedback actually. It means we're probably in the right place with it. So yeah, and a lot of really good stuff, and we can look through it. So just want to acknowledge that, and looking forward to our next steps. Really great that we've been given the sort of stages and all the dates. So really looking forward to getting through that, and of course our engagements with the Whakatau as we go through the process. So just want to say thanks and looking forward to it.
No other comments at this point. I'll come to you, Councillor Burns, in a second. So really just to, I mean, I also have got concerns around the stakeholder range, which I've already said, but hearing how staff value the responses and that it's not just a numbers game, but I think it does nevertheless give a perception there. And so we'll have that conversation tomorrow and look forward to that. And yeah, absolutely no, it's such a hard job, so many competing ideas and different desires and outcomes that are wanted. So really tough, really tough. Councillor Mackenzie.
Is your solution to the concern about the four-stream feedback? Is the solution to that is reopening the feedback process? And
Oh, sorry.
if it is, I would support it.
I know you would, Councillor Mackenzie. So we've heard that we know that we're hearing that there's two issues here that have essentially we can't win them both. So or maybe we can. We'll have that conversation tomorrow and see what we can do around that and make some decisions as the council table on that. So but the discussion's there and we know what so sorry, Councillor Davis, if you want to say something. Well, no, what I mean is that we'd have a briefing and discussions and then it would come back to the table. Absolutely agree. So Councillor Burns, you want to wrap up? No one else got anything else to say? Right, so Burns.
Thank you, Chair. Like everyone else, again, we can't go far enough to acknowledge the work that you've done. So at least I would like to have that noted in the minutes that I certainly, and I know others are, really thankful and supportive. I do acknowledge what other councillors have said in regards to the range of those who have put feedback in so far, but I have really been captured by your statement about a contest of ideas. So, that's sort of certainly where I'm going. I won't get involved with whether we should slow, whatever. I would say, though, maintain speed, not haste. I have an opinion, of course, but again, thank you very much. And onwards and upwards. I look forward to tomorrow. Kia ora.
So, we've got a mover and seconder. Can I ask all those who are in favour, please say aye. Right. Anyone against? Right. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. So we'll move on to item 8.2. So this is the Strategy and Policy Committee Resolution Status Report, and Catherine Ford, our Director of Strategy and Planning, will introduce this one.
Thank you, Chair. This resolution status report mops up in effect the status reports from the committees that have been discontinued and that have now been on to the two new committees. So from a staff perspective, what we've done is run all the resolutions through from those other committees and brought them to the Strategy and Policy Committee for the sake of tidiness, I suppose, so that you'll see the reporting on them all because they're based on the old structure. But going forward, we intend to bring a resolution status report to both the Strategy and Policy Committee and the Regional Delivery Committee. So there'll be two for each committee. It was just a little bit tricky to work out where some of them fell in this, so we thought it would be the tidiest thing to bring them all here for this, and then going forward we could have different status reports trackers for two different committees. So if there's any questions on any of them, I'm happy to take them, but that's just for thinking around why this comes to this committee now and then the approach going forward.
Councillor Burns.
Kia ora. I'll just harp on the same old thing that I always harp on about the regional biodiversity strategy. My question is, given that the revitalisation is grossly overdue and we have started the process, I'm presuming this is steaming ahead, for want of a better term, rather than having to be put onto a work list by this committee. Can I get some sort of confirmation it's all going?
It's certainly on the active work program for staff.
Just a supplementary. That's a very cover-all answer, and fair enough, but are we likely to see something in the very near future on where we're at with that, or do we have to wait till the next one of these meetings?
I don't. a briefing isn't scheduled for council in the immediate future, but it's certainly top of the line in terms of the forward work program for this committee. We acknowledge it's a priority for this committee to keep working on.
We're on the resolutions. Yeah. So I did have a similar question to Greg's, because I noted in there around some of the resolutions around the biodiversity strategy, around how we're looking to establish like a governance group for it. And it says that that's complete, but I don't believe that's correct because I don't think we did. That never came back to us as this is the governance group that will lead the biodiversity committee. So I just think that does need to come back to us at some point. What the plan is around that governance group and who's on it, etc.
That needs to be
Just moving to the item 8.2 on the bottom of page 33 about the Canterbury Regional Public Transport Plan 2025-35. Just to let people know, that was endorsed by the Greater Christchurch Partnership to go for consultation at our meeting last week.
So just to clarify my point, just for start, so it's on page 25 and it's resolution 3 there. So it agrees to a revitalisation of, and then at 3.1 is formalising council representation. That's the bit that I don't know if we've done, because below it talks about the chair and deputy chair of biodiversity working with staff to do that, or to keep working on the process, and then noting that formal structure is required to revitalise. This on page 26. Revitalise the Canterbury biodiversity will need to be discussed among partner stakeholders and signatories. So, and that's the bit I don't think we've landed yet, and I think that's really important that we do land that in the near future so we can move on with the rest of the process.
Okay. And so I'm just to clarify, so the things that are in amber, some of those will be with this committee, some of those are with the delivery committee, and we'll just make sure there's nothing dropped between the two, and we'll work that out through the 2 work programs. So we need to have to start to establish that. Great, thank you. Okay, so with no more questions, then can I ask for someone to? Oh, so Catherine's still staying at the table because that's the bit. So yeah, so Councillor Cranwell will move the recommendation of the notes that we note the previous resolutions, and do I have a seconder? Councillor Edge. So, is there any discussion? Anybody want to comment? No. Okay. So in that case, then I'll put the motion. Can I have all those in favour? Please say aye. Anyone against? No. That's carried. Thank you. Next item we have is on council submissions, and we have one submission coming to us. So Olivia, no, Emma Davies is going to come back to the table for us and to speak to this one. So it's the submission that we've already submitted, but bringing it to the council. So it's public. We'd like to take it. Okay. Speak to the report.
Thank you, Kia ora, councillors. Yes, I'm here on behalf of Olivia, who's not in the office today. And this is to table the submission that the Regional Council made on the RN Freshwater and Other Matters Amendment Bill, and that was lodged with the Primary Production Select Committee on the 5th of July. Under the submission policy, under the signatory of the acting chair, Councillor Pauling. There were a number of workshops held and feedback sought from yourselves as councillors, and we've got engagement in developing that submission. Then on the 9th of July, Councillors Pauling and Robinson appeared in front of the committee and spoke to the submission in support of that. Otherwise, I'll just highlight, I won't go through the main points that paragraphs 19 and 20 summarise the key submission points that we made. And just the other thing I wanted to note is that in the there's an attachment there looking ahead to the next stage. So the next amendment bill will be, we're still looking at when that's going to be released, and the anticipated is that will be already this year. So that will be the next stage of the submission process. Happy to take any questions. Any questions? You'll move it. Okay. So yeah, just this yeah. So council recommendation. So anyone would like to do this?
I'll just give a quick, you might remember Genevieve and I gave this submission in the bus on our field trip. That was the day that we did that. And we didn't get many questions that day in terms of our submission. So that's just how that went. But, you know, it's in the system, and I don't think we've heard the next steps on that yet. But it's obviously another round of the RMA reform as well.
So, kia ora, and thank you to councillors, Councillor Robinson, Pauling, for speaking to that submission. And I think it was, and I thought it was pretty well read and lots of information there, and hopefully somebody's listening at the other end of the submissions that we make. Councillor Karakia, you'd like to do?
Yeah, just a response to Councillor Pauling. It was, I believe that it was the way it was articulately presented that we didn't have any questions. Or they didn't even read the paper.
Okay, so we've got a mover and a seconder, so I'll put the motion that we've received this submission screen. So can I have all those who are in favour, please say aye. Anyone against? No, so that's carried. Thank you. So then it just remains for me to tell you that the next meeting of the Strategy and Policy Committee will be on the 4th of September. So looking forward to that. And I just wanted to give my Deputy Chair the opportunity to speak if he'd like to, recognising that he's also a really critical person in this. He's overseas at the moment. And but Dion, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity, Vicky, and good to see everybody and great conversation around the table. I've got not a huge amount more to add, but one thing that I do want to acknowledge is that I would like to catch up with the 3 core service chairs when they, with Vicky, when we get back in regards to that forward work program. I've been looking through that while I'm over here, and there is a heck of a lot of work that this committee could get done or could do. But I really want to focus and start thinking about what this council wants to do well, and what we want to focus on doing well. So those 3 people, have a think about that over the next week. I'm back later next week after the local government conference. So have a think about that. What do we want to do well, so that we can then give that direction to staff so that we can make some really good changes in our council and for our region. So thanks, everybody. It's been a good time over here. I'm not in India at the moment, in Kuala Lumpur, off to the university for a couple of days, and then Singapore, and then back. So thanks, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Kia ora, thank you, Dion. So we'll hope we get some warmer weather for you when you come back. It'll be a bit of a shock.
Yeah, I think it might be. I've heard it's been quite cold.
So no, good to see you. Kia ora. So then we have the final closing this one. We're going to close at the end of the second. So we've got another meeting this afternoon. So we'll close at the end of that meeting that we have this afternoon. So that's us done. Thank you very much, councillors. Appreciate it. Kia ora.